Hello, Brother Sewing and Crafting family. Angela Wolf here, Brother Brand Ambassador, and I'm so excited to see you this week, and we've got another great project for you. This one's going to utilize the PrintModa and the Aveneer, which I'm sure you could probably use the Luminaire too, but we'll have to see. We've got Tina joining us. I'm so excited to see this, and wait till you see the quilt behind her. This is gorgeous. So before we get going, we are streaming on Brother Sewing YouTube and Facebook pages. We're live in the comments today, so leave your comments and ask your questions. Tina, how are you?
I am doing so well, Angela, and so thankful that it's almost spring because I don't know about you, but I've had plenty of cold weather for this year.
I'm over it. I'm over it. But see, what happens is here in Michigan, it'll be nice for 2 days and you start to put your boots away and the next day you get a foot of snow. So I'm not over it until after April 10th. My husband always says it snows the first week of April. And since for 30 years, he's been accurate.
I met someone last week who's grown up here, and she said there's 4 different winters, and I really shouldn't even think about planning anything until after Mother's Day. How's that for a scary thought?
Oh, that's even worse. That's even worse. Well, the quilt behind you makes me think spring. I love it. I love it. I love the butterflies, the colors. Did you make that?
I did. It's got the butterflies were cut out on the Scan and Cut, and they have little rhinestones in their wings. I don't know if you can see it. And then I did the edge to edge and the quilt borders on the Luminaire.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely beautiful. Everyone's like, I know they're going to be saying, can you do a demo on that? Not today. Not today. Today we're going to have a lot of fun though. Wait till they see what you're making. This is going to be so cute.
All right. So I don't know about you guys, but I like to have some seasonal decor items in my house. And I thought today I'd show you how to make a quick little mini quilt that you can hang on a banner. So let's get a little close up of it here. It's behind me sitting on top of the PrintModa. Isn't that adorable?
That is so cute, Tina.
I love that. So we're gonna use lots of things today, but don't be afraid. It's all pretty easy and straightforward. We're going to use the Artspira app to put the printed fabric together. And of course, it'll be printed on the PrintModa. And then we'll take it to the Aveneer, and I'll show you how to use the Design Center and one of the quilting fills to turn it into a quick little in the hoop project. And for those of you at home, if you don't have an embroidery machine, one thing that I would encourage you to think about getting one because they're really, really fun. But the construction of this can be really simple. You could literally just sew a rectangle around the 4 sides. All right. So don't be concerned if you don't have the same machines that I do. You can still make this project work for you.
It's kind of like plan A, plan B.
Exactly. All right. So let's go ahead and get started with the construction in the Artspira app. Let me pull that up. All right. I think I'm ready for that now. Give me 1 second. All right. So you guys hopefully can see my Artspira on the screen. So we're going to use a couple of things in the app itself. We're going to come into Plus New. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to use the geometric patterns option to create that background. If you notice the print that was around the 4 sides of it, and we're actually going to use the actual print file from the app to create that. All right. So we're going to come in here and we'll select geometric patterns. And then I'm going to go ahead and give it a size. So we'll go into custom size. Now the fabric roll in the PrintModa is 11.69 inches. So I'm going to leave that there, but we're going to change the height of it to 10 inches. So that was pretty easy. And then we'll say create. All right. So then on this one, I could choose one of the patterns that's in the app. This is what you see below here, or I can choose an image that's on my phone. So I took a picture of that center artwork. So I'm just going to go to image, and then I did a screenshot. So I'm going to go to my screenshots and scroll down. And sure enough, there's that print file that I'm going to use. Now, this is really fun. If you guys haven't played with the geometric patterns, oh my gosh, super fun. Although you'd be surprised how much time goes by while you're playing with it, right? So the first thing we're going to do is go to the size button here. And this is the part that's fun, right? So I can go all the way there, and I can go all the way down here, and I can go to any of the options in between, right? So kind of play with it until you get something you're happy with. I really like this one. And then you'll simply just check the little check mark here. Now, the other thing that you can do is you can pick different pieces from the original artwork, right? And sometimes you don't appreciate how different it can be. So let's play with that for just a second. So we're going to press piece here at the bottom. And then it offers up different options for me here. So let's kind of look at different ones. So let's try this one that has no yellow in it. Look how different that is, right? Here's another one that has no yellow. So don't be afraid. I would play with the piece that you select, and I would also play with the size until you get the perfect pattern, something that really you love, right? So with that done, I can go ahead and press save and save it to my phone, and then it's ready for me to use, right? So next up, what we're going to do, just going to discard this here, we're ready to create the little mini quilt design. So we're going to go to Design Editor. So we're still in Plus New. All right. And again, custom size. And again, my measurements reflect the little mini quilt hanger that I have. If yours is a different size, of course, you'll need to change your measurements to fit that. But we're just going to come in here. Mine, I needed it to be about 10 inches long. So I'm just going to adjust the height here again to 10. And we'll create. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to create that central artwork, right? So we're going to start with a plus underneath the workspace. And then I'm going to go to Printing Data. And then we're going to go into the illustration tab. All right. Now, if you haven't been in Artspira a lot, you know, we have two versions. We have a free and a paid version. And for today, I picked one of the free patterns. And so when you're scrolling through, if you just want to see the content that's free, like here, I'm just going to press filter. And then under membership type, when I click it, I'll unselect the Artspira Plus. So I'll only be able to see free content now and hit apply. All right, and now I'm in the flowers, so we're just going to scroll down here until I find the design I'm looking for, and here it is right here. Look at that, isn't that cute? And then I'll just press done. Now, I don't know about you guys, but a few years ago when I was living in Atlanta, they had the Matisse cut paper exhibit in the art museum, and I loved it. It really spoke to me. I had a friend with me, and she said that's because I'm not a very good drawer, and even I thought that I could make some of these. And I don't know that I'd go that far, but it's simple. You know, it's colorful. It's really pretty fun. So we're going to start here with the artwork. Now, because when I put it has a transparent background. So before I put my background pattern behind it, I'm going to add one more thing. We're going to go to Printing Data. And this time I'm going to choose a basic shape. And I'm just going to scroll down till I get to this square here. And we'll say done. So you can see the little square. I'll tap it to select it. All right. Now, what I want to do is it's basically going to be the mat board for my art print. Okay. So it's going to create a little bit of space and separation from the background. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it with a solid white color. All right. And then I'm going to go to the line, which is around the edges here. And I want that to be black. And I'm going to make it wider. Again, think about this as an application for like a mat board when you're having something framed at the frame shop. So now you can see I have the rectangle. It's got the bold black border. So now I want to size it to what I want it to be. All right. So my overall project is 6 by 10. So I'm going to have this mat board element come in at 8 by 4. So under the layout tab, I'm going to come down here to the size, and I'm not going to keep it proportional when I'm changing sizes. So I'm going to unlock it here, and then I'm going to go into the height, and I'm going to put 8, and then I'm going to come into the width, and I'm going to change that to 4, and then say done. And sure enough, there's my mat board. All right. Now it's sitting on top of my other artwork right now, so I'll just scooch it over here. Now I'm going to grab my artwork and kind of center that over here. Obviously, I need to change the size of it too. So I'm going to once again go into the layout tab. I'm going to do a couple of things. One, you'll notice you can't see it right now, but if I scroll down to layers, right, I can say put my artwork on top, and now you can see the artwork with the mat board layer behind it. And then I'll come up here and I'm going to change the size again. So again, it's not going to be proportional. So I'm going to unlock aspect ratio. So I'm trying to remember what I said. I think I said 8 inches tall, and I want it to have about a ½ inch or so clearance around it. So let's see if I can do math in my head this morning while I'm talking. Let's try 7 here. And then let's do the width at 3. Let's see how that looks. All right, that I could actually make it a little bit bigger. And again, there's nothing magic to it. This is kind of one of those things that you look at and you decide what you like. So let's try 7.5 and let's try 3.5 here. Oh, that's better. Now, a couple of things that I want to do here. Now I want to center those two together. So I'm going to go to the Select tab at the bottom, and I'm going to select all. And the first thing I'm going to do is go to Align, and then I'm going to align them to the horizontal center and also to the vertical center so that it's nicely spaced within that. And then once I have that done, I'm going to also group them, because I want to show you how once they're grouped, as we have it here, then I can move them around my workspace, right? And they stay together. So I don't have to worry about them separating when I finish up what I'm doing, okay? So now I have my foreground, if you would, of the mini quilt, and we're ready to add that background print. So we'll say okay here. And this time we're going to use the option on the left-hand side. So in here, I have different options. I can choose a solid color. I can use a gradation. I can have a pattern that's in here. Or I made my own patterns. So I'm going to go to my patterns here. And then there's the one that I selected for my project. Isn't that cute? I love that. And what's great about using the geometric patterns is you don't have to worry about, finding the perfect print at the fabric store to match what you're trying to work with, because your print is based on whatever artwork you're using in the foreground. And then just so you know, because the fabric prints out wide, you can choose at this point whether you could even come in here and choose the artwork if you wanted to, and you could duplicate, and you could say you wanted 2 of them. And you could print out 2 on the same piece of fabric if you wanted to, and move those where you wanted to, right? So either you can do all of those types of things right here in the app. Super fun, super easy. And when you're done with your design process, now I would have a little bit more space in the middle here. It's just okay, done. Decide if you want to save it or not. I'm not going to save it here. And you'll notice it's already connected to my PrintModa. So you'll see Brother HL-JF1. That's the PrintModa printer. And all I have to do is touch on print, and it will print right out from the printer. Now I've already printed it, so let's come out of Artspira here, and I'll go pick up the print from the printer. And again, I'd recommend that once you have it printed, you see in this one I didn't have the wide background fabric. I'd recommend that you let it air dry for about 10 or 15 minutes, just so the ink can dry, so you don't have any transfer on your hands when you're working with it. All right. So far, Angela, sound pretty easy and straightforward?
I have to tell you, I absolutely love using your print and then creating the other designs. You were talking about when you start playing with those and then use the, what do they call it, where it switches like height. What is the name for it? I can't even think of it.
Oh, the size when you do that thing backwards and forwards?
Yeah, and then you can turn it into all the different designs. I just lost the name. But anyways, you said it's so much fun and time goes by. I love this because last year I took a photo of outdoors with all the leaves, and I was playing with that on the airplane, and somebody next to me thought I was playing a video game. I was like, no, but I did just spend 45 minutes.
Oh, that's hysterical. It is really addictive. It definitely is. All right, so let's step over the table here, and I'll kind of walk you through some of the steps. Or you can see some of the things that are printed out. So here's the foreground. So you see it's perfectly sized for my project. Now, again, if you go ahead and print the whole wide format and you only print one, you'll end up with additional fabric like this that you can use for the backing. I wanted to have matching little hanger tabs for mine, right? So I cut some of the little pieces off small like this. And then to make the little hanger tabs, right, you just fold it right sides together like this and seam it up with a 1/4 inch seam. And I'll show you, I have a fun little tool for turning it right side out. And then for me, and you can do it however you want to, I don't know if you can tell here, but I actually, when I ironed it, I have the joining seam running down the middle of the wrong side, right? So this is how I would put my little hanging tabs when I got ready to make it. But these are basically going to be your pattern pieces. And I'll show you now. We'll pop over to the Aveneer, and I'll show you how easy it is to create the in-hoop project part. All right, so basically It's really simple construction, right? It's rectangles, and then I added a quilting fill. Again, if you don't have an embroidery machine, you can just go into sewing and then do a 1/4 inch seam around the 4 sides, right? So you can make this project work for you as well. But we're going to go ahead and set it up like an in the hoop project. So I'm going to get started with the design center here. And we're going to do a couple of things. So I'm going to digitize 2 rectangles to get me started, okay? So when you're picking a shape, I've got shapes icons on here, right? So I could come in here and pick this little square and then I could resize it. But I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to pop over here to the hoops because there's a hoop that's about the right size that I want anyway. So I'm going to pick the 6x10 hoop here. And now you can see I have a rectangle on here. So the first one that I'm going to digitize is going to be inset a 1/4 inch on all 4 sides because that's going to hold down my batting. And so with this selected, I'm going to go to the size tab. And again, remember, I cut my piece 10 by 6. So if I take a 1/2 inch off of both of those measurements, then my height should be 9.5. And my width should be 5.5. I think my math is still working for this morning. All right. All right. So there's my run stitch. Now I'm going to apply the run stitch, right? So we're going to come here to the stitch selector. And I'm going to choose run. And I'm going to choose a color. Let's go ahead and choose red for this because you'll be able to see it pretty easily. And then to apply it, of course, it's the bucket or the flood fill icon. And then I'm just going to touch my shape. And we can see that it's changed color here. Now, the second rectangle I'm going to add here, and by the way, I'm going to go ahead and save this into the machine right now before I move on, and I'll tell you why as we go further into this process, all right? But now I want to add a second rectangle, which is the size of the piece that I printed. So I want it to be 6x10. And initially, it's going to be the placement line for where to put my printed piece of fabric, right? So we're going to use a very similar process. We're going to go back into the shapes icon. I'm going to go back to the hoops. I'm going to choose that 6x10 hoop again. All right. And with it selected, I'm going to resize it. This time I want it to be exactly 10 tall. Nope, not 1. I really want it to be 10 tall. I keep forgetting to put the decimal point. So if you have an even number, remember that you have to add the decimal point. All right, so there's my 10 and then my 6 here. All right. Now, this time I also want this to be a run stitch, but let's go ahead and make it a different color. So we'll choose a beautiful green color, I guess, this time. And then we'll put on the flood fill. And this time I'm going to try and use my mouse because my fingers are big. All right, so now I've assigned the run stitch to that. And again, that's going to be my placement line. Now, for both of these, you know, they don't have a very structural role in my project. So on the next screen, and this is really exciting for those of you with Aveneer, we can now change the run, which historically has been a double run, into a single run. So to do that here, first I want to do it to both of them at the same time. So I'm going to chain them together. And then all I have to do is come here and turn my underlay to off and then say OK. And now I have 2 single run designs, right? So super cool. I'm very excited about that. So then we'll press set and we'll take that onto the embroidery side of our machine. All right. Now, I'm going to go ahead and add some quilting to this, right? And I have lots of ways. I could have done it in the design center, but there's a quilting pattern that's on the machine that's perfect for this particular print. It reminds me a lot of the cut paper exhibit as well. So we're just going to say add, and then we're going to pick an onboard design. So we're going over here to folder 11, I believe, if I remember correctly. Yep, it's called Quilt 2. And then this one right here, number 8, is perfect for this project. Look at, you can already see it's got the funny little flowery shapes in it already. So let's go ahead and set that. Now, I need to resize it a little bit. It's a little bit too wide. And then I'm actually going to use the border function to add additional repeats to it. So with it highlighted, let's go to our edit. And we're going to go to resize a little bit. So I'm going to make it a little bit narrower. There's not like a magic number, but I want it to not extend out beyond it. I do want it to cover the both sides of the smaller rectangle here, right? So somewhere in there is fine. And then I'm going to repeat it 3 times. Okay, so this particular pattern is only 2.91 inches, and I'm pretty sure that my thing is like 9.5. So I think if I get it to 3.2 inches tall in that area, it'll fit perfectly in here. So I've already adjusted the width. So let's just make the pattern a wee bit taller here. So I'm just going to increase it. See how, all right, 3.19. So that's perfect, right? So it's right in the middle. We'll say okay. Now, the border function is so fun because look, I come in here. I could copy, paste, move everything around, right? But who's got time for that? So with the vertical.
I love that. Who's got time for that? Nobody, because this is super easy, Tina.
Right? I know. So we've got the vertical highlighted here. So I'm going to add 1 repeat above. Oh my gosh, look how perfect that is. And then we'll come over here and add 1 repeat below. Right? Like seriously, that was super easy. And then we'll say okay. And then the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to repeat that smaller rectangle because that's going to be the part that holds my backing in. So again, add from the design center. Remember, I saved it in the pocket. So let's see if I can pick the right rectangle because I have a lot of rectangles. Oh, they all look kind of the same, but I think I made it red. So let's hope this is the right one. We'll know soon enough. We'll go to the size icon and look at it. 9. I got the first one on the first. All right, so there's our final stitch sequence, right? Now this time, because it has a structural roll, like it's going to keep everything together, when I go to the next page, I'm not going to turn the underlay off. I'm going to leave it on so then I'll have a double run, right? So that'll just make the whole construction more secure. And then say set, and then I am off to the races. So that's how easy it is to turn this into a in the hoop project. So hopefully you guys won't be afraid to try that at home. It really is pretty easy. And then, you know, if you're having that day where maybe you haven't had enough coffee and a 1/4 inch seam seems like it would be really hard, the machine will do it for you.
That was so simple. You know, I always end up tending to take that the fill and making it longer, which, you know, it only takes a couple seconds, but that was using that border function. It was instantaneous. It's finished. I always forget to use that. So I would love to know in the chat how many people have tried it, because that is on your Luminaire as well. I believe it's on the Stellaire as well too. So go try it. I love that feature.
Absolutely. All right. So I'm just going to walk back over to the table. I've got some step outs of the final construction, just so there's no mystery of how we put it all together.
Great.
All right. So let's come over here real quick. And again, here's a close-up of the finished project. And you can see the quilting is on here. And again, it's that same kind of irregular kind of floral shape to it. It really matches the printed fabric super well. All right, so our construction, let's set these aside because I have a mini-me version of this for us to go through here. So here's where we get started. So again, all I had in my hoop, I'm just going to grab my chair real quick over here. All I had in the hoop was the mesh stabilizer that you can see here. Because it has a nice soft hand, you can leave it in your quilt blocks. And what I put my blob of batting right in the middle of my hoop. And the first thing it stitched was the smaller rectangle, which you can see here. And at that point, I just took my hoop off the machine. I used, you know, these duckbill scissors that we use for applique. I used it to go around the edges and cut away the excess. And the reason that we do that is because it gets all that bulk out of our seam, so it makes it easier to turn when we're further into the project, right? Then the hoop goes back in the machine, and you can see it stitches that second rectangle. And again, that's my placement line for where I put, whoops, I got 2 moving things here, for where I put my printed piece. And by the way, if you're at home and you like this color scheme, this is another one of the floral prints that's in the Artspira app. And this is its little geometric pattern. And I made it just the same way as I showed you how to do this one a few minutes.
That was it. Geometric pattern. I could not think of that word. Thanks, Tina. Finally, it came to me.
Oh, that's fun. All right. So then you just lay this piece in the hoop, right? That was pretty easy. And then it does, oops, still got a little stuff in here. Then it does the quilting stitch, and you can see I did brown thread on here so you can see it. And it literally is pretty much edge to edge on this piece, right? But it gives you some texture, and you guys at home can decide if you want a thread color for the quilting that kind of disappears and just creates texture, or if you want it to show up and be part of the, the visual design. It's totally up to you. Once the quilting is done, you're going to take the little tabs and you're going to tape, and I use tape to hold them, but you want the unfinished edge outside of the perimeter. That sounds like a good geometry word. Outside of the perimeter of your rectangle, because you want this finished piece to show here. Now, this one, I put little ribbon pieces in here, but really quickly, if you want to make them out of matching fabric, right? Here would be the geometric pattern, right? Remember, I told you a few minutes ago, right sides together and then sew it together with about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then you have the exercise of turning it right side out, right? So honestly, bodkin, I don't even know if you'd call this a bodkin. I've had this thing since I think I was in high school. I laughed. I took it out of the packaging and the plastic has turned to like a bright orange color. That's how old. But it's basically like a big old fat straw and then a wooden stick, right? And so you can slide this part inside of the thing that you want to turn. And then you take the stick part and you stuff it in there. And now the trick is you got to get enough of that stuff in there. I didn't get enough in there. All right, so take the stick. Okay, listen, I did this perfectly the first time, every time before.
But I'm watching this, I'm thinking, you know what? I don't have that, but a straw and a stick from my sushi last week would be perfect for this.
Right? Totally. All right, so finally, it only took me 3 tries to get the magic to work. All right, and then it's right side out, and if some of the ends are still turned in, just take the stick and turn them out. And then I just pressed them like this with the seam right down the middle, okay? And then in this case, if I were going to put these on here, now these are longer than I would need, right? I would just tape them so that the unfinished part was outside of the hoop, all right? And at that point, you guys could, I think the easiest way to do the backing, right, is you take the fabric and you fold it like this with the wrong sides together, right? And you overlap it on the project just like this, right? So you want the 2 folds to end up in the center of your project, and then it goes back in the machine and it does that last rectangle, and then you literally just turn it right side out. And if you need to, you can use the point turner tools in the corners to make the corners nice and sharp. And that's all you have to do. And then you have your finished little mini quilt, right? Now this one, you can see I put the plain fabric on the back, but I have the printed on the front and I have the printed for the little hanger tabs here. And depending on where you're hanging it, you may want your tabs longer or shorter than mine. I wanted them really short because I just wanted them to clear that little connector part here.
So that is so cute. So Tina, for somebody watching this that maybe isn't familiar with, doing the embroidery in the hoop, what stabilizer is that you have that on there?
So it's a form of cutaway stabilizer. It's the one that we call no-show mesh. We'll get the camera set here in a minute so you can see it's a real person talking to you. It's the no-show mesh. So it has a nice soft hand to it. We use it a lot on garments with knits and those types of things.
Yeah.
So that because it has that soft kind of hand to it, it's not pokey on the inside. It comes in 3 different colors, typically white, and there's a beige version and a black version. So typically you use the beige one if you're using it on something that's white or like a light pastel color, because then it merges or it blends in with your skin tone underneath and you don't notice it as much. You can use white for lots of other things, and then you use the black one if you were using it on a dark garment. But but again, really pliable and soft, so it really doesn't affect the hand of your quilting projects at all.
And don't forget with your stabilizer to put what it is on the label inside the tube, because that no-show mesh looks and feels a lot like wash away, which it's not wash away. So if you embroider and think it's going to wash away, it's not going to wash away. Ask me how I know that.
You are super, super correct. The other thing, if you use it on a garment application, a lot of it is made out of nylon, and if you have your iron turned up too hot, you can actually create some puckering in your finished project because the no-show mesh melts a little bit if you have too high of a heat on it.
Oh, well, that's a good tip. That's a very good tip. This is such a fun project. Super cute, super easy. And like she said, even if you don't have an embroidery machine, well, you would have to do the stippling on your own, which, by the way, I was thinking, I'm really getting a little addicted to that stitch regulator foot on the Aveneer. And although I always click the button to add a fill, but lately I've been wanting to add my own just because it's so fast and so easy. So if you don't have an embroidery machine, you could add your own fills yourself, you know, do your own stippling, do decorative stitching or something like that. This is really, really a cute project. And to be able to use PrintModa, you know, to buy that would be very expensive because with the two-tone, with the fabric, I mean,
yeah.
I just look at that and think, okay, it's so customizable.
I know. You could have a picture of your grandkids. You could have a picture of the dog. I could have had the Easter bunny for Easter. And I mean, all in, I'm talking about less than an hour from, that sounds like a fun idea. I wonder how I figure it out in Artspira to the whole thing being done, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh gosh, Tina, that is such a fun project.
Thank you. I have one other idea, sort of another take on the same basic mechanics. I don't know about you guys, but you know, decorative pillows. First of all, my husband makes fun of me all the time. He's like, men do not have throw pillows on their furniture, right? That's a woman. That's a woman thing.
Oh my gosh. You said that I almost choked on my coffee. My husband's like, no extra pillows. You just don't. What's the point? I said, they look nice, but then you have to take them off to sit or to go to bed. No pillows, except, so now my studio's full of them.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, so when I go out of town, he puts them all on the floor, and I think sometimes he picks them up the day I'm coming home, but a lot of times they're still waiting for me on the floor. But also we downsized when we retired and the kids all had their own place, right? So I don't have a place to store the 25,000 pillows I'd like to have in my house. This is a fun idea. You can basically make one, what would you call it? Like a pillow. Blank doesn't seem like the right word, but conceptually it's kind of the thing. And then you can make these little interchangeable covers for it. So let me show you the finished project, and then I'll walk you through kind of the how-tos on this one too.
I'm excited for this. I'm curious to know when you're finished what your husband would call this. Since you got to call it something besides a throw pillow because those aren't going to stay.
Well, he says they're called throw pillows because you throw them on the floor.
Now that's perfect. I might have to do a little banner with that.
Yeah. All right. So let's look at this one just to get you started here. So basically it's a little pillow. So my center piece here was, and it's all the same fabric, right? So it was cut 10.5 inches. You can make it whatever you want. And then I had 3-inch border strips that I sewed on the 4 sides. And then you notice this is a little bit weird, right? I have buttons sewn into the 4 corners of the pillow, and you might be kind of wondering why, and I'll show you that in a minute. But basically, you know, like if I'm gone and he doesn't want any of my decorative stuff, he can just have it plain. This is the feathering edge to edge pattern that's on the Aveneer, and this is that oak leaf cool border pattern that we had on the Luminaire, and we now have it on the Aveneer as well. And it's brown, and I have kind of a gold tan thread on it, although it looks kind of white on camera, but it's kind of neutral, right? So it's meant to be there, but not really the star of the show. And so then, now these prints did not come from the Artspira app. There are other graphics, but basically same basic thing, 10.5 inches. It's quilted with one of the other fills that's in that same quilt folder. But look, it's really flat, right? And I've quilted a companion print on the other side. So literally it packs or stores as flat as almost like a dish towel or something, right? And it's got the little elastic tabs on the corners. And so basically when you want to change it or put one on, you just stick the little elastics. Ugh, only had more manual dexterity here. You just put the little elastics on the button, they kind of disappear. And then you have a whole new look for your throw pillow, right? It does. Nice.
What a great idea, Tina. I mean, that is such a great idea because you can have, like you said, one pillow with all these different covers to enter. Well, of course, I'd want maybe a few different colors too, but even those could lay flat. I love this idea.
Yeah, it's just, because I just don't have enough places to store all these things anymore. So just having, something that you can change up. So I figured out the other day, like I could do one for each month and all the holidays, and it would all store in like a big Ziploc bag, right?
I'm so excited to see the comments. I know remember, guys, we're live in the chat today, but if we were live today, I know that those comments, I know they're going to be rolling in right now. What a brilliant idea. And those the pillow forms are getting kind of expensive as well. And I actually went to a store that's going to be closing to try to grab some of those. They were already out of them. So, I mean, this kills a lot of birds with one stone.
Yeah, it totally does. So really quick, I've got some step outs on the construction. So it's a little bit different than the last one, but it's like 90% the same, right? So again, same, let me get this white piece behind here. So you start off the same way. My pillow, right, was square. So now I have, the little square to hold the batting. You cut it out of the seam allowance, and then you have the placement line for where to put your printed piece. And again, for me, I printed the one I showed you at 10.5. So this one's 10.5, and the little one for the batting was 10. But again, you can make the measurements work for you. Then you have your little print, right? I've already cut away my excess batting. You can put your little print right on top of there. And then from there, you put in your quilting stitches that I don't know if you can see that on camera. Let's see.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Now we can see it.
Then you have your little quilting stitches that come on here. And then once that part's done, now I did go back and I restitched the bigger rectangle just to hold down the edges. So I know exactly where the corners were. And then these are just little pieces of elastic folded in half. And then there's tape here. This one might be actually easier to see. Yeah, there. That's easier to see. So they're folded in half. I will say, like, just think about your when you're deciding how big to cut your elastic pieces. Factor in the size of your button, because I cut them really small and then I couldn't fit them around my buttons, and then I had to rip it out and put longer ones in. So that's basically why I would say that. And then from there, of course, you just take your other. So this is one of them, and then you'd have for the other side of the pillow form, you'd have your other one that's quilted up like this, and then just you lay this one on top, and then you stitch that smaller square. Just make sure that on that last stitch out, and I went into the design center and used the eraser so that I had an opening here. Otherwise, you can't stitch and turn very easily from there. And then it's the same, the point turner tool and the iron, and you're all done.
Wow. What a fun, easy project. Fun, easy. I'm loving the graphics though, the colors that you've chosen. And the stippling on there, you can't hardly see it when you're holding it away, and then you bring it closely and you can see those stitches. It's beautiful.
Yeah, we've got beautiful patterns on our machines, whether they're in the design folders or, now we have a bunch of new ones in the design center that we can use too. And it's really fun. And, a lot of people that I talk to that aren't quilters think, well, I'm never going to use those because I don't do quilting. But think about making a tote bag, making your own custom quilted fabric before you even cut out your pieces, right? There's just so many other applications for it.
There really is. I just finished a piece of fabric. I don't think I have it here. I'd show it to you. I'll show it to you when I'm finished with it. I took a piece of denim and used the edge to edge with the triple stitch and just created a design throughout the whole fabric. And now I was going to make a skirt, and now I'm like, oh, this would make such a cute bag. So now I'm torn. I hope it doesn't become a piece that I pet all the time, because I can't make up my mind, but it's going to be one or the other before Easter.
Oh, that's so funny. I met a young lady this weekend. I was at a quilt show in Atlanta, and she's a big garment maker. And she was telling me that she had her luminaire, but she hadn't been doing that much embroidery. And I looked at her, she had this beautiful A-line dress on, and I'm like, you could take these designs and repeat them all around the hemline. And she's like, oh my. And then you could put them on the bodice. You could add them to the sleeves. And she's like, oh, you're right. I got to get in there and start adding some embroidery.
Absolutely. In fact, that feature that you were using where you can quickly add, where you added the stippling to the top and the bottom, that's what I use for my sleeves. And you can just quickly take small designs and, like you said, make rows of them. And It makes your garment go from just beautiful to major beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully you guys feel inspired and you're ready to get some spring decor in your houses. And again, all it's going to take you is about an hour, and it's a really fun exercise.
Yeah, actually, you could finish both in an hour. That's crazy. It's so much fun, so easy. Leave your comments and questions below. Tina, we always love it when you come on because you have such inspiring projects. And if you want to go back and watch some of her previous shows, the easiest way to do it is to go to Brother Sew's YouTube channel, and you have to click on the icon at the top that says live. Otherwise, you don't see all of these episodes. We're almost at episode 500, and we didn't even start counting for the first year. So there's a lot of binge watching, and Tina's been on a lot of the shows, and each one is something that I love to do. I have some gifts I have to make, and I was going to do a book cover, but now I think I might have to do that garden flag because it's so easy and so cute.
Yeah, good. Well, I'm glad I've inspired you. And like I said, it meets all the parameters, right? It's quick and it's easy and it's cute.
It is. It is. All right, everyone, leave your comments below. We are live in the chat today. And even if you're watching the replay, say hi. We would love to see what's going on, and we'll try to answer those. And Tina, cannot wait till next time. And I'm going to end this one with a video on the Aveneer using that stitch regulator foot that I'm so addicted to. But I would have to say the Art Spirit app is first, because when I start playing with that, as you mentioned, time goes by and all of a sudden you're like, where did that 45 minutes go? But I've got a lot of cute things to print out.
That's true.
All right. Until next time, happy sewing.
Happy sewing.